I'm a bit embarrassed to admit it, but I've lost sleep over artificial intelligence. I've made myself sick wondering, will it take over my career? Will people become illiterate? Will people marry chatbots instead of humans? Is my life already over? I'm not even 30. Am I obsolete? Then one day, it dawned on me. I am no stranger to anxiety, and AI anxiety is just like any other kind of anxiety. Therefore, it can be managed. So in today's video, I'm walking you through exactly how I learned to control my AI anxiety in 6 fairly simple steps so you too can stop having nightmares about robot takeovers and start approaching the issue with a calm concern. Step 4 in particular is the one that really helped me shift my mindset. AI anxiety is going to take different forms for different people. To be honest and real with you, mine specifically has been that artificial intelligence will make the arts and specifically literature irrelevant. Not so much in the sense that publishers will prioritize AI generated text over human written books, because ultimately I don't think those would sell well enough to be worthwhile to publishers, but rather because young people growing up with generative AI are losing the ability and the desire to read even a short text, like a few hundred words. So 5, 10 years from now, will there be a demand for literature? My dream of dreams is to publish books, and I've spent my whole life thus far crafting my writing skill. Will there be people who want to read it or who are even able to? And if not, then what? Even now, just mentioning it, like my heart rate is going up a little bit. Whether your anxiety is similar to mine or of an entirely different flavor, you are not alone. A study published in the Administrative Sciences Journal in November of 2024 found that the majority of the public have some sort of deep-seated fear around AI, particularly in the workplace. Researchers interviewed 867 individuals across the UK, representing a mix of genders, ages, occupations, and education levels, and found that 88% had concerns over potential misuse of personal data. 84% worried about the speed of AI development, outpacing societal preparedness and regulations. And 72% were anxious about the future of employment and societal well-being. In other words, people who have no concerns are the minority. With that, I want to quickly note the difference between anxiety and concern. Our goal is not to become full-fledged AI adopters who throw our concerns in the bin, but rather to approach these concerns in a way that doesn't ruin our day. Concern is one thing, a panic attack is another. And of course, if your AI anxiety is so severe that it's significantly impacting your well-being and your ability to function day to day, please consider reaching out to a mental health professional if you're able, who can better speak to your individual needs. I am merely a lady with a microphone and too many thoughts. Step number 1, step back from the hype. This is really more like a step 0, prerequisite, because it is essential. You've got to stop doom scrolling Twitter, stop lurking on Reddit, stop reading the alarmist Guardian articles and the Substack think pieces, stop watching the commentary YouTube, or making the commentary YouTube, at least until you can engage with those pieces without spiraling. I'm sure you know this, but it bears repeating that these essays and articles, especially from mainstream media outlets, are designed to get clicks. And playing on your fear is a very effective way to do that. When you're anxious, you're usually looking for information to either ease your fears or, perhaps not consciously, confirm them. Speaking from experience, I'm willing to bet you can remember a time when you were in a vulnerable state and you came across some upsetting headline or post, and you knew it was going to make you feel worse, but you just couldn't help clicking on it. You were right, you felt worse. There are many ways to limit your exposure to anxiety-inducing content. Personally, I've found the most success with a combination of a screen time app. Currently, I'm using Opal, and muting keywords on social media. The muting and the blocking isn't forever. We shouldn't be sticking our fingers in our ears, but just for now. Step 2, research the mechanics of AI. No doubt you've heard the old adage, know your enemy. Given that the clash between AI and society often feels like a battle, the logic applies. It's much easier to be anxious about artificial intelligence when you don't really understand what it is. and when the loudest voices in the field are telling you it has the power to either usher in a golden age or enslave the human race. No middle ground, no in between. That's why I'm recommending you take some time to learn the basics of generative AI and LLMs, as well as the history of AI as a whole. You don't need to become an expert by any means, but learn at least enough to demystify the technology. You know how in Scooby Doo, when the gang traps the monster and they rip off his mask, only to discover that the monster was just Old Man Jenkins? Yeah, this is kind of like that. The magical, all powerful, potentially sentient machine is ultimately just a bunch of code when you take its mask off. And that's not to trivialize the technology, but rather to hammer home that it's not supernatural. It's not God. Luckily, there are many resources out there for learning about AI, many of which are totally free. There are a few channels and videos here on YouTube I recommend checking out. For a quick and dirty intro, there's Henrik Nyberg's video, Generative AI in a Nutshell. Jordan Harrod's channel, Everyday AI, looks at how we interact with AI in our daily lives, and she has a very relaxed and approachable AI 101 series. If you do want to go deeper, Ed Eureka has a 4-hour intro course, and Dave Churchill of Memorial University offers his entire graduate-level introductory AI course that totals over 23 hours of lectures. Posting an entire university course for free on YouTube is very cool, very punk. I don't know if that's what that means. Given that this is a literary channel, of course I'm going to recommend you some books. At the moment, I'm slowly working my way through AI Basics, a non-technical intro by Tom Towley, which is written specifically for those of us with no technical background in mind. I promise if I can understand it, you can too. Similarly, there's the classic AI for Dummies, and I'm also interested in Artificial Intelligence, A Guide for Thinking Humans by Melanie Mitchell, which explores AI's capabilities and limitations, as well as ethical concerns. In my experience talking with and reading posts from creatively inclined people who are strongly against AI, I've noticed a unspoken, or sometimes loudly spoken, refusal to engage with the concept of AI at all. A very bury your head in the sand mentality. And although I completely understand this feeling of repulsion, which you witnessed in my 2 other AI videos, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm coming to realize that that mentality is not going to help us in the long run. As the old saying goes, knowledge is power. And in order to advocate for the protections and the regulations we want to see and to do the work to mitigate our concerns, we have to understand what we're even talking about. Step 3, accept that what you're feeling is natural and normal. This is true of all kinds of anxiety, but AI anxiety, also known as technophobia, has a historical precedent that stretches back almost as far as technology itself. I told you how my fear of AI revolves around the replacing of human writing with AI-generated text. Well, writing itself was once a feared technology. Socrates, in fact, the guy who got executed for asking too many questions? Yeah, he was highly critical of writing, and he did not write himself. Plato in the Phaedrus quotes him as saying, "This invention, writing, will produce forgetfulness in the minds of those who learn to use it, because they will not practice their memory. Their trust in writing, produced by external characters which are no part of themselves, will discourage the use of their own memory within them." Though I have no doubt Socrates had a significantly better memory than most of us, writing was not, in fact, the end of human memory. Though I do think he has at least a little bit of a point, but that's the topic for a different video. A much more recent example, which Paige White brought to my attention in a comment under my AI M- video, is the camera. Specifically, the personal camera as proliferated by Kodak in the early 20th century. I still don't entirely agree with their comment, but my views have evolved somewhat since then, and I learned something new, so I do appreciate that. Thank you. Once cameras were no longer only in the domain of professional photographers, anyone could capture anyone else's likeness at any time, and then sell that likeness to advertisers for profit, completely unknown to the person in the photo. Unsurprisingly, there were no legal protections against this new kind of mass exposure, and newspapers across the US were calling cameras deadly weapons and deadly little boxes. I do think it's true that photography forever changed our relationships to privacy and publicity, and I'm positive Gilded Age Americans would have a coronary if they saw our relationships to cameras today. But eventually, with enough public uproar, some privacy laws did take effect, like you can't profit off of someone else's likeness without their consent. And cameras did not exactly prove to be the deadly little weapons that the headlines anticipated. For more examples of historical technophobia, see also books, the telephone, the telegraph, television, radio, cinema, cars, trains, planes, and personal computers. All of them had, or were thought to have, problems that could be solved, and none of them ushered in the end times. But real quick, if any of this advice has helped you so far, please consider giving this video a like. That is the easiest and fastest way to support the channel. But if you're new around here, hello, I'm Joe, this is Thought Couture, and I want to help you live a creative and thought-oriented life despite the complications of the modern digital age. I publish new videos every 2 weeks or so on current topics in literature, culture, and the arts, as well as advice on self-education and creative writing. Plus the occasional insight into my personal journey as a creative writer and, as I call it, Renaissance woman in the making. If that sounds like your thing, I would love for you to stick around and hit that subscribe button. Anyway, back to the video. With these historical examples in mind, our next step is to approach the issue with logic and reason, which I understand is easier said than done. I have 2 different protocols for this. The first is when you're in the throes of anxiety, and the second is for approaching the real-world implications of AI. I am no stranger to anxiety. I was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder when I was 12 years old, and so it's been a minute. And these past few years, I've also struggled with intrusive thoughts. And I've found that the best way to talk myself down in these intense moments is to administer a mini CBT therapy session on myself, but cognitive behavioral therapy. If you're not familiar, CBT is essentially the process of identifying and changing negative thought patterns. For about 3 years now, I've been using an app called Clarity to walk me through the process, specifically their thought analyzer section, but you can absolutely do this with pen and paper and a notebook.
So I want to quickly walk you through my own process. This is the Clarity app. I really only use this analyze thought section, and I'll use the thought that I had in the beginning of the video. Let's see. I'm afraid AI will make literature irrelevant. And then you're going to choose which category of distorted thought your thought falls into. I would say for anxious thoughts and fears around artificial intelligence will probably fall into either catastrophizing, fortune telling, or all or nothing thinking. But of course, if you're going through this, take a sec to just go through all of them and see which truly resonates with you the most. I'm going to pick catastrophizing because that is the worst case scenario, and fortune telling because I'm predicting the future when I am not able to do that. Then it gives you some prompts for challenging that thought. So I will be honest in that the evidence for says that literacy is declining a bit. I'm not making that up. Then I'll do the evidence against, and I would say that is there are many writers and readers left who still love books. I think it's also possible that there will be regulations in place, be in schools, or even that the whole thing will blow over and even out, shall we say. And lastly, I would pick, I don't know for sure if this will really happen because it's a fortune-telling thought. And usually for myself, just taking a couple of minutes to go through some of those challenging prompts is enough to talk me off the ledge and remind me that this is my anxiety talking. I can't see the future. I am assuming the very worst case scenario, and none of it is happening right this very second.
Anxiety is amazing at convincing you that whatever you're thinking about the world or the future or yourself is the truth. And taking even a few minutes to interrogate that thought can do wonders for showing you that anxiety is a filthy fucking liar. Asking what do the facts say is where our earlier research into the mechanics of AI comes in, as well as my next resource, Less Wrong. Less Wrong is a forum and community I stumbled upon a few months ago that promotes discussion of technology and current issues from a specifically rational framework rather than emotional, in order to arrive at true beliefs and good decisions. AI is one of the most prominently featured topics on the site, but it's not the only one, and users are dedicated to making AI safe and beneficial for humanity. There's a ton of content on Less Wrong, much of it quite philosophical and definitely beyond me. And I do find the website kind of difficult to navigate, so I linked both their AI topic page and the introductory page down in the description below. I wanted to include Less Wrong in this video. In fact, it was my inspiration for this video because it's the only resource I've come across so far where you can read thoughts, opinions, discussions on artificial intelligence that are not clouded by hype, sensationalism, or fear mongering, while also learning to develop your own rational beliefs about it. Now, do note that different users have different beliefs and opinions about the end result of AI, as well as timelines for when we are going to see those results. Uh, in other words, some are much more optimistic than others, but users are required to back up their beliefs and opinions with facts and logic. So the discussions are much more measured and reasonable than anything you'll find on X or Reddit. I think Less Wrong is a great example of how concern over AI can be productive instead of debilitating. And the key is to not let our own neuroses get in the way. Step 5, look toward the positive. As mentioned, the users and the creators of Less Wrong are committed to talking about and working on how to make AI as safe and harmless as possible. And they're not the only ones. With the rise of AI development as a field came also the rise of AI ethics as a field. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Ethics Unwrapped at the University of Texas describes it succinctly as ensuring that AI is developed and deployed responsibly, promoting fairness, transparency, accountability, and societal well-being while minimizing harm. AI ethics is another area I recommend doing even some light research into, just to prove to yourself that it's not all doom and gloom. Some of the companies and the corporations behind AI may be soulless, money-hungry monsters, but there are indeed some good people out there working hard to integrate the technology into society in the most ethical way possible. For a more extensive and real-world oriented read, check out UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence from 2021, which is a 44-page document outlining the values, principles, and aims of AI ethics, as well as practical applications across 11 policy areas. In a similar vein, there is an organization called Effective Altruism, which aims to find the most effective way to help others in several key domains, one of them being AI ethics and alignment. Their site offers examples of what has been done in the past to advance AI ethics, what's currently in the works, and how you can get involved. Every site I just mentioned, including Less Wrong, has multiple book recommendations and suggestions for further reading on the ethics of AI. I just haven't read any yet, so I can't give you a personal recommendation. However, I did thoroughly enjoy Stuart J. Russell's talk on AI ethics at the World Knowledge Forum from January of this year. Just a few seconds in, he says,
and even though the topic here is AI ethics, I'm actually going to talk more about common sense. Because I think many of the big questions that we face are not really ethical questions.
And that's a statement with which I fully agree. If nothing else, I do think you should listen to this talk here on YouTube. It's only about 30 minutes. Finally, step number 6, instead of avoidance, take action. One of the roots of AI anxiety and anxiety in general is a sense of helplessness, of feeling like you have no control over a situation and there is absolutely nothing you can do to change it. Ironically, doing something, anything, is often the best way to stop feeling like you can do nothing. Taking action doesn't have to be protesting outside of the Microsoft headquarters. Although I suppose that's an option. Is there a petition you can sign? Just last week, from the time of this filming, over 1,100 writers, including Gregory Maguire, Lauren Groff, and Jodi Picoult, signed a petition requesting the Big Five publishing houses to curb their use of AI in multiple ways, not to publish work generated by AI that feeds on copyrighted writing, not to replace employees with AI, and not to use AI-generated voices in audiobook narration, among other requests. Will it go anywhere? I don't know. I certainly hope so. But if nothing else, it at least feels good to know that writers are coming together and supporting each other while working towards a common goal that benefits all of us. And that is a hell of a lot more productive than sitting in fear and doing nothing. Is there a group you can join? This can be an activist group like Pause AI, which is an international nonprofit network fighting for a pause in AI development that would allow governments to regulate and control the most powerful models and prove that they're safe. There's also Stop AI, which is a bit more of an extreme activist group based in San Francisco who wants an all-out ban of artificial intelligence. Both Less Wrong and Effective Altruism also offer international meetups and events, and they link to similar affiliated groups. And of course, you can look for support closer to home. In a Scientific American article on AI anxiety, animator Cat Lyons stated that joining the Animation Guild with other concerned artists eased their anxiety and made them more hopeful about the future. Maybe you're also part of a union that has similar concerns, or maybe you can start an unofficial group with your coworkers. If you're a student, you might look into clubs that are advocating for AI regulations on campus. I'm willing to bet that no matter what your circumstances are, you'll be able to find at least a few people who are feeling similar AI anxieties and who want to see change. That was kind of a lot of info in a relatively short amount of time, so here's a quick recap. 1. Step away from the hype and don't give the anxiety any fuel. 2. Research the technical side of AI in order to demystify the technology and understand what exactly we're working with. 3. Accept that your fear is normal and has a long historical precedent, and so far none of the world-ending technology predictions have come true. 4. Practice questioning your anxious thoughts and practice thinking about AI rationally instead of emotionally. 5. Look towards the positive ethical work that organizations and individuals are doing. And 6. Combat helplessness by taking even seemingly small actions or connecting with a like-minded group. If you've been struggling with AI anxiety and fears, I sincerely hope that at least one of these suggestions helps ease them. It is scary to consider the potential effects of this technology because none of us have ever seen anything like it before, with the exception of the people who created it, but it is possible to express and to work on our concerns without letting them consume us. And if we all let our fears consume us, well, then there's no one left to fight for them. And that's even scarier. If you have any tips for working through AI anxiety that I didn't mention, please feel free to share them in the comments, and maybe you can help someone who needs to hear it. And of course, you're welcome to discuss any fears you may have. Get them off your chest, because I can pretty much guarantee that someone else watching shares them. Though I do ask that everyone be respectful of each other's perspectives and experiences, because anxiety is it's a tough topic. I get it, but I want this to be a safe space in which to discuss. Well, anyway, that is it for me today. As always, thank you so very much for spending your time with me. If you're somehow still in the mood to consider the implications of AI, then you might enjoy this video, which includes the wildest use of the technology that I've seen so far. Or for something entirely unrelated, check out this one. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.